All right, ladies and gentlemen, Blizzard Entertainment has done the unthinkable. They have added native gamepad support to World of Warcraft. So today, we're going to be checking that out. You guys know I've been playing with console port for a long time. Played with a controller since the end of WoD. Long time. So it's pretty interesting and exciting that they have added their own to the game. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be showing how to get console port, how to get it set up, go through all the settings. My last console port video that I made was a very long time ago, so it is very outdated. So yeah, it's pretty easy to set up, and now it requires no extra software. Used to, you had to run extra software to get your Xbox controller inputs recognized, or whatever controller you used. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Last video, I rambled way too much. We're going to make it our goal for this video to not do that. So let's get right into it. So first, how do you get console port? Well, go to your browser and console port GitHub. Right there, it's going to be sublinfers console port. I will include this link in the description below. So we're going to go to this and this little master button here, click that. We're going to go to beta. And then code, download zip. And once you got that downloaded, it will open up folder. Go ahead and open that. Take these three, copy and paste them into your add-ons folder, which if you don't know how to do that, I'll go a little slow for you. Like I said, take these, copy them. You have to find your World of Warcraft folder now. Mine is in my SSD here, local disk C, World of Warcraft. We're looking for retail for this. Interface, add-ons, and then just paste the three folders into here. You probably won't have this folder. Don't worry about it. It's for a different add-on. So if you don't have that, don't worry about it. So once you have that all pasted into here, you are done on this, and you can go either start your game or just reload your UI. Now what's going to happen is you will now have this little console port button up here, but your first time logging in with it, you should be met with this screen right here. It should automatically open this screen for you. So go ahead and pick the controller that you have. I'm pretty sure one of the only things that this might do is change what buttons show up. Like if you have a PlayStation controller, instead of the X, Y, B buttons, it'll be like square, triangle, circle. And it might have some extra features because PlayStation controller has touchpads, stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure. I play with Xbox controller. So just choose that and click continue. Now, you're going to be taken to this screen. You have emulate shift, control, alt, escape, left mouse button, and right mouse button. Now you could take these and put them on whatever you want. I personally prefer my shift on left trigger and my control on right trigger. If you want to put them on left trigger and left bumper, you can. If you want to put them on left bumper and right bumper, you can, or right trigger and right bumper, just whatever you want. You can also emulate alt if you want. I don't do that though. I'm pretty sure it would open up more keybinds to you, but it also requires more brain power and me not smart. So emulate escape. Now this sounds like a good idea to have on paper, but I'm going to give you a hot tip here in a minute. So right now, just leave emulate escape alone. Guys, I almost forgot. I'd made it through the entire video and I almost forgot this. Emulate escape. I told you guys not to mess with that right now because it's going to give you a hot tip. What you do is just go into your bindings, right? And you find your start button somewhere. Mine is right here. Find your start button. Go to it. Where's it at? It is probably going to be interface panel. Toggle game menu. Just find toggle game menu and keybind that to your start button. Whatever your start button is, keybind it to that. Because what toggle game menu does is while you are in any sort of menu, it will back you out of the menu so it can open your game menu. By default, opening your game menu closes out all of your other panels, and then you can open that with it. And the reason you want to do it this way is I have noticed that if you have emulate escape keybound to start button or anything like that, that button can't be used in any other key combos. Like if you want to set, your start button to the game menu or escape or something like that, but you want left trigger plus start to be another keybind, it won't work. Or you want right trigger and start to be another keybind, it won't work. Because whenever you try to set that keybind, it just opens up your game menu instead of binding it. Left mouse button for left stick. So you click your left stick and it will act as a left mouse button. This is also how you will bring up your cursor. And the same for the right mouse button. And this is how you will interact with things. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. So now we go to mouse, hide cursor on jump. This is typically pretty important to have active, or if you don't like it, you don't have to. And again, your hide cursor on stick input is probably going to be on both. I prefer mine on just movement, or if I have my cursor on screen, all I have to do is just tap my left thumbstick and my cursor locks. Cursor center position, there is going to be a small area somewhere in the middle of your screen that acts as an interact area, where if you put that area above a quest giver or an herb or in the world, you can click your right thumbstick or whatever you set to emulate right mouse button, and it will interact with that thing. And then all this does is change the position that it is on screen. For me, you see where this little green crosshair is on my screen? That is my center position. Like if I come up to this rune stag and I put my right mouse button over him and I click it, it targets him. I don't want to fight you yet though. So back in here. Now cursor start speed. This is how fast your cursor movement begins as soon as you touch the stick. Cursor acceleration is how fast it speeds up the longer you hold your stick down. And cursor max speed is how fast it can eventually go. Now, since I have my start speed and max speed the same, cursor acceleration doesn't really do much. But if you want your start speed kind of low and your max speed kind of high, to where you can do really fine adjustments just by bumping your right stick, you can have that low and just set. This is just like feel stuff. Like you just mess around with this and see how you like it. I personally like my start speed and max speed the same. So next on camera, we have face, movement, and direction. This is going to be up to you, whether you like it or not. Now, by default, when you move in World of Warcraft, or when you used to, you'd go forward with your left thumbstick, and then you turn it to the right, and you start strafing, and then like you hold back, and it just backpedals you. What this does, you turn this on, and now your character will move in the direction that your stick moves. So if you turn your stick left, your character will actually turn to the left instead of strafe and go backwards. Face movement threshold, I'm not entirely sure. I've just set that to whatever. Still don't know what it does. Don't worry about it. I think yours by default is going to be down to like 115. I think that's where it is on default. But like I said, I haven't noticed anything. So I can't help you on that. Now, camera yaw speed. This is the speed of your camera turning left and right. So basically left and right sensitivity. And this is up and down sensitivity. And this is the position of your camera over your shoulder. I personally like mine at 0, but if you like a more cinematic, like over the shoulder type thing, you can set that there too. Now, Go to continue, and it's going to take you to this screen. This is where you can kind of get a little acquainted with what your keybinds are. And you see left trigger is shift, right trigger is control. My right bumper for right now is not bound because I moved it, but that will get bound sometime in the future. Left bumper is hammer of justice, stuff like that. Now you can also go into bindings, and this is going to look very overwhelming at first, but this is just something that you have to sit down and get acquainted with because you kind of need to know what all your buttons do because this doesn't tell you what all your buttons do with the modifiers. You kind of just have to like get a little used to that. Also, on a small side note, if you copied all three of the folders in, you're going to have another add-on that I have disabled currently. Let me find it. It's going to be called Console Port Action Bar. I personally don't play with this. This is actually going to look really, really sketch for a second, but I personally don't play with this because I prefer Bartender, but this is what yours is going to look like. Let me go ahead and just like turn Bartender off for a second. Yeah, so this is what your action bar is going to look like with console port action bars. And there's some settings in here, action bar settings that you can check out, but I'm not super familiar with it because, like I said, I don't play with it too much. I prefer Bartender. So this is stuff you'll have to like look over. Just pretty straightforward stuff. Very, very nice if you like this kind of stuff. But for me, like I said, I just prefer Bartender. There's nothing wrong with the action bar. It's just kind of like I've played with Bartender for so long. It was kind of hard for me to move away from Bartender and having all of my stuff out for me to see whenever. So back to this. Anyways, go through here and pretty much let's go ahead and go to my right bumper. Since it is currently unbound, I will show you how to bind it. Now, right bumper, you have to find, say, something in here that you want. All right, chat. Open chat. It will open this, and you'll see this little like red button here, and it has a little countdown timer. But you go and click on it, and then click right bumper, and it binds it to it. And now, if I go back out, save changes, and I press my right bumper, it will open my chat, which I realize that you can't see because my face is in the way. Okay, now for re-key binding something, you have to go into it. We'll use chat, or like open chat again for our example, because I don't want my open chat to be on right bumper, but we will use it. So click on that, and you have to go to the key binding and right click it to unbind it. Okay, controller. My controller has thumbstick drift. But right click it and it unbinds it. And then you can go back into it and rebind it from there. And I'll just leave it on right bumper because that's the only keybind that I have open for right now. And then save that, and you're done. So now that we're done with bindings, we're going to go over to settings. Now, first, there is going to be the crosshair option. Now, you won't be able to see mine very well because my crosshair that I have right here in the middle of the screen, that's a weak aura that I have from back before a crosshair was added to the console port. But what you can do is enable this, and now you can see that there's a little blue one kind of like behind mine that I have, and that again indicates where your interact zone is with your keyboard or with your mouse. So you can enable that without having to have anything special, and you can adjust the width and the height and the gap in the center and the thickness of the lines and color is all really awesome. This helps you know where exactly you need to position your crosshair. You're in the middle of the screen to interact with quest items and stuff like that, and it lets you aim, certain ground casted abilities. Like if you are a warrior with heroic leap, you can aim it with that, and just really, really good overall. Now, interface cursor, what this is, this little A that's going down my menu, that's the interface cursor. Unlimited navigation, it lets it interact with everything on the interface instead of just the panels. I leave this off because there isn't a whole lot of things that it needs to jump to. Use on demand, cursor appears on demand instead of in response to a panel showing up. I don't use this. I haven't found a use for it. Disable repeated movement. Like what this does is you turn that on, and every time that you press the button, no matter how long you hold it down, it will only move one space. Like for example, like mine, if I hold up or I hold down, it will continue to go. But I do that, I imagine it needs to save, but turn that on and it shouldn't do that. Now, repeated movement delay is the amount of time that it takes in between jumps as you hold it down. Like if I take this and bump it like way down, after it saves, it will go up quite a bit. But I found that 0.215 is the sweet spot for me. Reactivation delay is the delay that it takes before this cursor will pop up after combat. Now, me personally, I had a lot of problems with this before it was added to the game way back in the day. You had to do this with like a slash command in chat, where I would be doing like high mythic plus and I would die to something as I was spamming a button, and I would die and it would immediately release because the interface cursor would default to the first panel on the screen. And that panel, while I was in combat and died, would be the death thing, and like it would default to release spirit, and it would like take me back to like the start of the dungeon, and it was very frustrating. So this 0.5 second delay really helps. Like if you're in something and you die and you don't want to release, you need to like wait on a res from someone. It prevents you from spamming a button and releasing spirit. Not entirely sure what that does. Like I haven't noticed anything or that, so. Not entirely what that does either. Always show mouse cursor, you toggle this on, and it will always show like your little hand right here. An automatic cursor timeout is the amount of time it takes for that to go away. But unit hotkeys, this is really nice. Basically, there's a keybind in the game that will allow you to assign a button combination to party and raid members. And you press the keybind, and then you press that button combination, and you can target the person that combo is assigned to. It makes healing possible. So you have this on always show, and it will leave a ghost of their button combination above their unit frame. So even while the button is not pressed, you can look at the player and still know what button combo you need beforehand, and kind of like sometimes even remember. You can put ignore player, and this will always ignore yourself. And size is the size of the fonts. Horizontal offset, because by default they kind of like appear in the middle. But if you have add-ons that are doing anything like showing buff icons, you might want the offset to be a little somewhere else. And for this, I would leave this alone because it's set up to where it will only show people kind of like in your raid, and I think it might show something else on like boss frames if you have an add-on that has boss frames and you need to target one of them. It's helpful for that, but I would probably just leave that alone for now. Accessibility really nice. Automatically bind extra items. When you get a quest item that you need to use during the quest, it will automatically bind that to the utility ring. And again, I'll show you that here in a minute. And automatically sell junk. This is really nice. There's a lot of add-ons that do this, but as long as you always have one doing it. Whenever you open a vendor, It will automatically sell all of your gray items that aren't useful for anything besides vendoring. Allow binding overlap. This lets you have multiple combos to the same binding. I wouldn't turn this on unless you know what you're doing. I have it on for a couple things, but don't worry about it too much. And the rest of this is not super useful. Okay, so the utility ring. This is the utility ring. You have it assigned to a keybind, and you can use your left thumbstick to figure something out on it. Now I'll show you, like in your keybinds, go into the bindings, and under console port special, it is going to be utility ring right here. Mine is LTRTRB. You can put it like wherever you want, and while that keybind is held, you have to hold it down. It will bring up the utility ring, and then you can figure out something on it. And like I said, whenever console port binds extra items, that's where it will bind them. And then you can then use it to figure that out, to select it on your utility ring, and use that item instead of having to fish around for it in your bags. Now, another really good one is target unit frames hold. Again, like I press mine, it is left on my D-pad, and you see it assigned an A to my unit frame right here. So while I hold left on my D-pad, if I press A, it targets myself. And if you're in a raid, it will assign more buttons to everyone in your raid. Like it'll assign like a B and an X and a Y, and then it'll get to like an AA and an AB and an AX. And that way you can target pretty much anyone up to a 40-man raid, because it just keeps adding button combinations, allowing you to really pick out like who you want. Now, the caveat is the more people in a raid, the longer and more intricate the button combos will be. So you have to be like very practiced to get it to work in a very large raid. But I messed around with it for a little bit, and I have a video on my channel where I healed like a respectably high key on my paladin. And I used to heal like a lot on my Resto Druid and Legion, and I healed like heroic raids up to 30 man, and it can actually like work really well and surprises a lot of people, especially if they know that you play with a controller. So I believe that is just about it. I kind of feel like there's some stuff that I missed. Oh, paddles. If you have an Xbox Elite controller, or I think there are uh, some PlayStation controllers with paddles on the back, like you can see mine, like I have these little paddles here. They are not by default supported by Blizzard. So unfortunately, they don't let us do that by default. And you need an external program to make that work. That's the only caveat. Like, you don't need any external program to make this work unless you want your paddles to work or your Xbox home button to work. Because again, like this little bright button here in the middle, it doesn't work either by default because Blizzard just can't get it recognized because of Microsoft. So I still use a program called ReadWSD to get that to work. You can see like here on the back, I have my paddles key bound to F1, F2, F3, F4. I have them all bound just in case I ever do use the extra ones, but I only have 2 paddles mapped currently, and I have my Xbox home button mapped to C, which is my keybind in game to open my character panel, because that's like I want to press this button to be able to like look at all my juicy stats. You know, I'm at a raid boss fight, and I get like all sorts of procs. I want to like open up my thing and see my attack power, my damage, and stuff like that. But no, it's nice to have just to like be able to go up to equipment manager if I have like a set of gear that I want to equip. So it's nice to have that. If you do have paddles that you want, you will probably need ReadWSD. I think to like they're still like the only program that I know that has been able to crack the code on the Xbox Elite controllers to get the paddles to show up as extra buttons. Now, ReadWSD does cost money. It comes with a 14-day free trial, At the end of that 14 days, it just locks the product. And if you want to reactivate it, you have to buy the code. It doesn't ask you for any payment upfront at all. So if you want to use it for 14 days and try it, it is an amazing program. I've used it. I originally got it for WoW because of my Xbox Elite controller, but I have since used it in every game that I play because of all the things that it can do. It is just one of the most powerful programs that I have for customizing my controller to do what I want it to. If anyone wants a guide on how to get ReWSD set up in the future, just comment, say, hey, I want a guide. If even one person wants it, I'll probably make a video because, you know, it can be like a little confusing getting to know a new program like this, and it's easier to have someone that's familiar with it explain it all to you. But yeah, just let me know in the comment if you want one, and I'll make one. But I think that's just about everything. I know I kind of like skimmed over it pretty quick because I didn't want this video to go long, but I'm rambling. I failed my goal. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video now. If I ended up missing something and stuff's kind of like confusing, again, just ask in the comments and I'll get to it whenever I can. Thank you guys for stopping by today. Y'all get in there and have fun.